You were in Iowa over the weekend. We had a reporter with you.
Yes.
Looking forward, there's this issue of who's going to make the national debates.
Yes.
We heard from Senator Gillibrand, your junior senator and rival, that she has qualified, that she's done what she needed to do, and in particular, the number of donors I wanted to ask about. She had a tough time, I think it was reported, getting to 65,000 individual donors, I think spread across 20 states or something like that. Where do you stand when it comes to that?
Well, everything about donors we're going to talk about at the time of the filing, which is in July. We just started. I mean, I'm 3 weeks into this race. And, I have a lot of respect for Senator Gillibrand. She's been in the race for months and months. It's a different reality for me starting out. But I'll tell you something, the DNC told us last week that I'm in the debate because I've now had 6 national polls that put me at the qualifying level. And there's other candidates who don't even have the 3 that are the bare minimum. So the number of polls that you get to that qualifying level in really counts in this process. Now, the deadline is Wednesday night at midnight, so there's still time for other information to come out, but I feel very good about where we stand right now. DNC's been very clear about the assumption that I'm in that debate, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a chance to talk about the issues and finally compare and contrast the candidates.
After the first debate, my understanding is they ratcheted up by quite a bit, that the next debate or the subsequent debates...
No, the fall, because remember, there's June and then there's July.
Right.
So July has, as I understand it, the same qualifying standards, but they're going to count what all the candidates have done up to whatever the cutoff date is, and again, compare across all candidates. Then there's a reset for September. Now, a lot of candidates and a lot of people are concerned about those September rules.
Yeah, the September rules, they double the number of donors to 120,000.
Which is a huge number.
Yes.
And look, I appreciate the impulse, but I think we have to ask the question, is this going to limit debate and limit the diversity of the field and limit the options for voters in a way that's unhelpful? When I talk to Iowans, especially the first up to bat, they like having the choices. They want to hear from everyone. There's plenty of time. It's 8 months till the Iowa caucuses, for God's sake, so there's time. So I'm going to look at that situation with that next round in the fall, but I do hope the DNC remembers that we're always better off being inclusive.
Do you have any sense of whether or not the DNC leadership is trying to winnow down the field prematurely, perhaps?
I have not heard that explicitly. One could argue that by making that change, that could be the result. That in September, you're 5 months ahead of the first voting is in February. So the party structure, look, the DNC has gone through a lot in recent years. And I did feel very good that when these original debate rules were put out, there was a conscious effort to think about what was inclusive, to think about how to bring the voices of grassroots Democrats into the process. I worry that those fall standards are starting to pull away from that and go back in a direction that used to be more exclusive. And I think what folks want from the DNC is we want them to be an honest broker and want them to make sure all voices are heard. And that's going to be a big discussion.
Well, it just seems sort of misaligned with an Iowa strategy, right? Like you and all of the other candidates, the idea is to get people who are going to go into a caucus and argue for you for 2 or 3 hours, on some future cold night in Iowa.
That we can guarantee.
Which is very
possibly
different.
during a blizzard.
Well, but it's very different from getting 65,000 people across 20 states, right? I mean, it's almost the opposite of it, right? What you really need to do is get a handful of supporters who are ready to go and caucus for you, which requires intensive work, not calling across dozens of states.
Yeah, at the same time, there is a very fair question that this process is for all of America. And the notion of broad qualifying standards, not just thinking about the 4 early states, I think that's smart. And again, I give the DNC credit that I think the initial qualifying idea looked very fair. I mean, 20 candidates, that's certainly a fair number. But we have to be careful going forward because this is the most diverse field in every sense we've ever had in the history of the Democratic Party. That's a beautiful thing. Every region of the country represented, people of all backgrounds represented. It's really healthy for the party. And I'm a believer that a good primary process actually energizes your own voters, Democratic voters, to come out in the fall and be engaged. So